Child and Woman and the creative reflections that follow in this episode and subsequent episodes are artistic expressions, not clinical interpretations. Nothing in this series is meant to diagnose, treat, or offer therapeutic instruction. If anything in these conversations touches a tender part of your story, please consider connecting with a qualified mental health professional, a trusted support person, or a trauma-informed practitioner. Your well-being matters, and you don't have to navigate any of this alone. This episode may include personal reflections on trauma, including experiences of sexual harm, family dysfunction, and emotional abandonment. There are no graphic details, but the themes may still feel activating or tender. Please listen in a way that feels safe for your body and your story. You can pause, step away, or return later. Your well-being comes first. Hello, and welcome to Shame Out Loud. I'm Lori, host of The Lori Clarke Show. Shame Out Loud is a space in The Lori Clarke Show where we talk about shame and fear and all those things that are really, really messy. And this particular episode is the second introduction to a new series in Shame Out Loud space called Child and Woman. And so I thought before we released that at the end of January that it would be really helpful to have an introduction episode. And so I did that with episode 91. And this is now the second introduction because there's something here that I would like to share with you. In episode 91, I talk about the ache of not just what happened to me but it was more about what didn't happen. It was more about the safety that I didn't get, the validation, I didn't have someone that advocated for me. I didn't feel protected. It was all the things that didn't happen because I didn't have someone that I could actually go to and have a conversation with. I didn't have the safety before this experience happened. I didn't have protection before the experience happened. And that was where the ache came from. And it is the part of episode 91 that I begin with. And I talk about the ache led me to questioning what safety was and what it looks like and feels like. And then I moved into, then I got to kind of look inward at myself because the external wasn't working for me, looking for safety outside of myself or love or validation or approval by people wasn't working for me. It was just exhausting me. And so what do? I need to go inward. And then the question came to me, which was, well, what do we do when we go inside of ourselves? Where do we go when we go inward? What does that look like? And so I then share an experience about me looking in the mirror. And I looked at my reflection and who I am and what I look like and how I present to the outside world is not often noticed by me. I don't see myself in the way that people perceive me. And I want to talk about that for a minute because I think it is a very important part of the context in who I am. And this might be helpful for you as you begin to interrogate some of these ideas and concepts that we're talking about. So in episode 91, I talk about looking in the mirror, and I look in the mirror and I put my hand on my face, and I do this every morning. And I say, I love you and you're beautiful. And it occurred to me that you as the listener and the viewer may hear those words coming out of my mouth and saying, what is she actually saying? She's pretty. She looks like she has it all together. She looks like a successful, intact woman. Maybe what she's saying when she says, I don't feel worthy, I don't feel lovable, I don't feel like I belong, I feel shame. Maybe when she says those things, that might be symbolism or not really what she's saying because she doesn't look like that. She doesn't look like she's struggling. But as I said, the visibility on the outside has never been an accurate reflection on what's happening on the inside. And this is where I want to bring clarity to something. If you've listened to episode 91, you'll know that for me, I had lots of things happen to me that were really difficult to square. They were difficult to deal with. And I had to make sense of those things. I had to put them somewhere. But those things were put onto me. People's actions and behaviors, their pattern, their belief, their way of seeing life affected me in a way that created a covering of shame. And I couldn't find myself because of someone else's action. And that partly was because the way in which I was taken care of and protected was far less than what I deserved. And that all begins in a family environment, in what I would call a family container. So we are all born into something, and someone raises you. A group of people, a very small group of people, one person, maybe you are welcomed into a family and now they are raising you, but you're raised with a set of beliefs, a set of things that you'll hear. This is who we are. This is how we live. This is what is possible for us. This is what's not possible for us. And in that container, you also learn what is safe, what is allowable, what you can talk about, what you can't talk about, what stories you can share, what stories will be too vulnerable for the people that are in your family. They don't want you to say it outside of the family. There's also the stories that you can't ever share, you can't ever talk about, the unmentionables, the impermissible things. Everything in those environments, whether it's the family culture, the family community, your religious culture, your workplace, your education, your emotional culture, all of these places have consequence for the action. This is what we do. This is who we are. This is how we live. And this is how we show up. You step outside that, we can't help you. Right? And inside of these containers and in my family container, there were some really, really strong beliefs. In particular, the belief of we are not like them. In fact, in my family, there was a victim mentality. Everything happened to us financially, emotionally, in friendships, work. There was chaos all the time. And there was not a shred of safety. I didn't know which way was up. My brother and I were like, what is happening? And when we went to other people's family containers, we noticed that ours was not exactly the panacea that we had thought it was. And that was even worse because it was there in those moments where that reflection of someone else's life or how they were, where it was reinforced even to a deeper level, which was, well, honey, they are doctors, but that's not us. We aren't doctors. We're not educated. We're not smart enough. And as a child, you don't have multiple perspectives or to compare to. Like, you're like, "Oh, okay," and you trust the person that's leading you, so "Okay, we aren't like them. We're never gonna be doctors. Okay, well, what are we gonna do?" Like, and then you begin to think about some of the dreams that you have that will never happen because, after all, I can dream as big as I want, and I'll never be that person because we aren't smart enough. So in episode 91, I say those things. I say, like, and in episodes where I've done solo podcasts, I've said, I believed I was stupid. I really did. And the truth is that was reinforced to me. You know, it wasn't said, "You are stupid, Lori." It was said, "You are not smart, and you're just going to have to deal with it." I didn't have context for that. I just knew that as a family, we were not a whole bunch of things. And the thing we were not was happy and safe and joyful. And we were not calm. And we were not like other people. And in that narrative that was given to me from the earliest of ages, there was also this very strong conversation that we are each other's helpers. And so together as victims, we will make it through the world together. And you just stay with me and we will be okay. And as victims, we moved through life. And let me tell you, one crazy thing after another happened. And it was all perpetuating this belief and pattern that we were victims, that we were not enough. We were worthless. We were not smart. We were not academic. We were not like them. And we were not emotional. And so when it came time for me to share what my experiences had been, my voice was met with, "We don't talk about that. We don't say that." But it happened. Yep, okay. But it couldn't have happened. So again, right? We don't talk about that. Now we're adding on to we're victims. And then we're also adding on to it. We also are going to keep secrets and we're going to promote suppression and smallness. So the family container has its own rules, its own beliefs, its own structure. This episode that I know is important for me to speak about. There is something incredibly powerful about reclaiming the inward narrative. I could not peel away the layers of victim beliefs and patterns that my family container thought were true. And so what I had to do was become different than the container. Because there was something in me that was like, I remember being 6 or 7, and it was after this experience had happened, and I knew I had nobody to tell. And I remember saying to myself, I can't ever live like this. I gotta, I can't live like this. I will never marry a person like this guy. I will not have a family like this. And I am telling you, I leaned into the truth of what I knew inside of me. And man, was it ever interesting. It was a very interesting ride because I couldn't go anywhere. I was a kid. And I pushed against that. And I pushed against that victim mentality of we are this. And even when I got married, that mentality was still there. I still was pushing against it. Even when I had kids, that mentality was pushing. And I'd say, no, no, no. I was a truth speaker. I'm not special. I I just knew that the only way to not repeat that was to go to an internal place where I knew there was some kind of goodness. So when I talk about the external and I'm saying things like, I'm not worthy, I'm shameful, I don't belong, that was the collective. And so if it didn't make sense in any episode that you've listened to where I've ever said that, it's because it wasn't making sense. I wasn't explaining that I lived in a culture of victim. I still told the truth. And that truth got me into a space of healing and self-introspection and a deeper understanding of who and what and where I am today and how I got here. I actively chose myself. And I chose what best aligned with what I knew and wanted internally. I didn't want to feel the shame. I didn't want to be enmeshed in that anymore. That enmeshment, that where you're integrated into other people's way of being. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be me. I wanted to be and stand on my own and be in charge of my own experience and my own life. And it was through that where I said, I want to pick what best aligns with me. I want to release the mindset of the collective. We are victims. We are worthless. We aren't ever going to be successful. We don't talk about those things. We don't believe you. Use your right to freedom. Use your right as having a free voice to say, I'm not doing that anymore. Because here's the thing, and this is what I will end with, because this is where I can't miss this part. And part of me doesn't want to do this because I don't want you to be discouraged. And I I want people to find themselves again so much, which is why I'm doing this. So when I say this next piece, the thing for me would be to say, don't say it, Lori, because you don't want to discourage people. And that's just a part of the container. I'm not doing it, guys. I can't do it. We gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. When you turn inward, you can walk through your own personal journey of self-introspection and letting go, even if it's not popular. What was so hard for me to write this and so hard for me to produce, to say this, is the very thing that I'm doing is threatening the family container of we are not supposed to say anything. Lori, you're supposed to sit at your desk and you're supposed to do podcasting and you're supposed to talk about everything, but don't talk about the abuse that happened in your life. Don't talk about the verbal abuse. And don't talk about the fact that you had to stuff all that down when you walked out that door and you had to show everybody at church and school and work and in your extended family that you guys were perfect. Because perfect and external is much better than going internal. Don't open that door. Do not open that internal door and let people see what's inside. It threatens. So when we turn the blame off, when we do not place blame, when we say, oh, your actions told the story, but I am going to choose to find love for me, and you and karma will have to deal together. But me, I'm not going to concern myself with you anymore. I'm going to learn about me. That's a different position, and it's a fine line. Blame keeps us stuck, and truth creates movement. And so that is what we've done here, is with episode 91, I've created movement where I've talked about looking at myself in the mirror and the unworthiness and the not belonging and the unable to love myself. And when I found her, I say in episode 91, like it took long time for me to believe that the reflection looking back at me was beautiful, but it wasn't because I didn't believe it. It was because I lived in a container that created beliefs through really hard moments in my life where I needed an adult to step the hell up, and no one did. I needed my school to step up, and no one did. I needed my church to step up, and no one did. I needed my family to step up, and no one did. I needed someone to step up. The only person that stepped up for me was my brother. I just adore him, and we talk about it a lot. When I was looking in the mirror to find where I had gone, where that 6-year-old went. Because when I was 6, before this whole experience happened, I loved myself. I thought I was the best thing in the world. I thought I was the most beautiful kid on the planet. I was like, and I was cute. I was sweet. I was a beautiful kid. And one day, not long after that, I looked in the mirror and I was like, whoa, whoever you were before that experience, you are so not lovable. You can't ever be her. Because she must have been the worst person, and you must be delusional because you thought she was amazing. You thought she was beautiful. You thought she was outstanding. When I look in the mirror, now I'm learning to unwind and untether and like disconnect myself from those old family stories. Truth of the matter is, it was only recent where conversation said, we believe you. And I was like in my mid-40s. I fought for my voice to be heard, and it never was. I wasn't believed. I was not believed. And so that does something to someone when you look in the mirror and you look at yourself and you see maybe that you're beautiful and you go, I can't be. The external didn't match the internal. And in my case, it was my internal was shame and all of those fear and all the self-doubt and all the things and all the impermissible feelings that you would feel. So when I'm looking at myself and I'm thinking, am I pretty? Those impermissibles don't allow for pretty. They don't allow for love. So when I did put my hand on my face, I was like, this is such a lie. It's crap. This is crap. But I did it anyway because I was determined to move from that victim mentality that our family held. We don't belong. We're unworthy. I'm like, how come I still feel it? Looking in that mirror, and slowly those words peeled back the layers. And I caught a glimpse of that little kid who, in her strawberry shortcake pajamas, jump up on the sink and sneak my mom's lipstick and put it on my lips. And I loved that. And then I was like messing it up and breaking it. So she bought me lip smackers and I just laced those on like as thick as I could. And I remember thinking, oh, you are just incredible. You are so divine and beautiful. Guys, I wanted her back. And when I looked in the mirror, what I was disavowing was the family container, the shroud of shame. Because to me, something mattered more than that family container. What mattered more when I started to turn inward was uncovering the love that I needed for myself. Because something that you all know if you come from a family container that has some really strong beliefs and patterns, good or bad, is that they do define you, healthy or unhealthy. And when you step away and you choose something different, that threatens the whole thing. So that's underneath the external and the internal. And that's how I arrived here. That's the context. You want the truth? That's the truth. I might as well say it. I wasn't hiding it. I just didn't feel, well, I didn't notice it until someone pointed it out to me. He said, wow, that sounds really difficult. You don't look like you had that struggle. And aside from all the things I thought in my head, I was like, huh, I wonder if those people who listen to me think the same. I wonder if I'm conveying the message right. And that's when I realized, no, I'm not conveying it as I would want it to be, which is to say, when I say I'm unlovable, I don't believe it. I don't believe it now. That family container boy, it really wanted me to believe it. Because then we could stay together. That's the control. That's the keep us all together. We want to keep our family together. We want to keep everybody in. Is everybody here? That's what we want to do, no matter how good or bad it is. I just, more importantly, wanted my dignity back. And that's what drove me. I did not deserve the secrecy. I did not deserve the years of fighting for validation. And you don't either. You do not deserve lack of validation. You do not deserve to have someone explain away what happened to you or to invalidate what had happened or to just tell you we're not talking about that. Okay, that's heavy, but there's no space for that here. You deserve more, and this series brings you more. That's what it does. And so that is what was so hard for me to say today. And the truth is, I have to say this to myself so that I will not do this to myself. I have to produce this. I must produce this, and I must not throw this away. This is what really does happen. So, external, there you go. External out there saying it. But internally, um, I can feel a healthy level of fear about sharing too much, being too vulnerable. It's uncomfortable for you and me. But if we're going to go down this road, if I'm doing this, then this has to matter. I've got all kinds of, you can't see this here. I've got this big board in my office and I have all these writings. There's a lot more that I want to talk about and that threatens the family container. That when at first glance you're like, that woman has it all. She's pretty. She looks great. She's 50. She dresses well. She's got a great life. It must not be all that bad. And it isn't. But it was. Because I couldn't see myself. And I want you to see yourself. So at the expense of me completely rambling and ranting, when I looked in that mirror and the tears fell from my eyes, I realized that the internal was able to press through the container, and that young child was able to meet me as this older woman. And she was able to say, I went away for a little bit. Experiences pushed us apart, but I'm back. And you get to now connect to the love that you never had, and you get to be the love you never had to yourself, for yourself. You get to be the safety that you never had to yourself and for yourself. You get to be the validation that you never received to yourself and for yourself. You get to be, and it is okay to push against the system. You paid the price, and that's okay. It's okay to be afraid too. As a truth speaker, it's fearful. But I want to love myself more than anything in the world. And so I'm going to. And I'm going to encourage you to do the same. So thank you for joining me. I know that I said in episode 91, in the outro, I said, oh, I'll meet you in the child and woman reading. And I'll say that again. I will meet you in the child and woman reading when I release those at the end of January. And I thank you so much for taking the time. And if you remember one thing, just remember it is always okay to disappoint everyone, but it is never okay to disappoint yourself. So, thank you for listening to Shame Out Loud. I'm Lori. And if you would like more from me and from this series, and to listen to other guests who have taken the time to come on my podcast, you can go to loriclarkemedia.com. And you can find me at my socials at The Lori Clarke Show. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me today. And may you find the love that you never had and may you return into this space where you can learn to love yourself and feel safe in your own body, mind, and soul. I will see you in the next episode.